Dress in drag and do the hula. A Boku no Hero crack fanfiction one shot written by Pretty Pumpkin on AO3. Izuku's breaths came in short, aborted gasps as he pressed his back against the far wall as far as he could. Todoroki shuddered beside him, Kirishima and Ida frozen in utter fear. Yaoyorozu gagged from the end of the line. The only thing that stood between them and what felt like death personified was a flimsy concrete wall. A wet, slimy splash echoed in the space from the corner of his eye, Todoroki could see Bakugo drop from thin air. "What the hell?" Bakugo coughed, and Izuku's eyes widened. "Kachan!" "Apologies, Bakugo-kun," All for One rumbled before the air filled with the sound of more people teleporting in. Izuku drew a sharp breath as he listened to 6 people choke and hack. Shit. Okay, so we basically have the entire league plus a 200-year-old megalomaniac who has dozens of quirks and can destroy a couple of blocks with a flick of his fingers. No biggie! Izuku would have let out a hysterical laugh if he wasn't so terrified of being caught. "Guys," he whispered, hoping that All for One couldn't hear him past his stupid-ass monologuing. The 4 of them settled their attention on him with frightened, shaken expressions. "When All Might comes, he'll need to fight without Kachan in the way. We need to grab him once there's an opening." The 4 exchanged looks, but they understood the necessity behind his words. "So, what's your plan for getting Bakubro out of there?" Kirishima whispered, peering over at Izuku. "Once All Might appears, I can cause a diversion. While I do that, Ida-kun, get ready to do the fastest reciprocal burst you've ever done, while Todoroki creates an ice ram and to shoot you out of here, and then you and Yaoyorozu make a break out of the alley's exit." The 3 heroes in training nodded. "Kirishima-kun," Izuku continued, "it's your job to burst through the wall with your heart and reach out to Kachan. He wouldn't accept a hand from anybody else." Kirishima gave him a shaky but determined grin. "You can count on me, Midobro." "Midoriya-kun," Yaoyorozu interrupted, looking significantly less nauseous now that they had a probably reliable plan. "What are you planning to use to distract them? That villain just reduced the area to rubble in less than a second," she stressed. Izuku could relate on a spiritual level to the amount of anxiety she was expressing. "It's not like you could dress up in drag and do the hula." Izuku paused. They all paled. "No," Ida hissed. "Absolutely not! Midoriya-kun, please do not!" "That was sarcastic, Midoriya-kun." "Midobro, you cannot be serious." "Midoriya-kun, you're very nice to look at." Todoroki gained a few looks, but this isn't going to. "That might just work." Izuku ignored their arguments. "Did you hear nothing we just said?" Ida looked much closer to having a conniption. "Guys, listen, it's so fucking unorthodox that literally none of them would know how to counter it." Where the hell did his brain to mouth filter go? Plus, I'm sure more than half of them haven't had a sex life. That builds up. Never mind. Yaoyoro's nausea seemed to have returned with a vengeance. Kirishima looked scandalized. Who corrupted you, Midobro? Izuku waved off. You get bored when you have no friends for 10 years. Anyway, would you like to come up with a better option? You three are essential for getting Kachan out of here. And Yorosu-chan, no offense, but you look on the verge of puking. They were all silent for a few seconds. I'm in agreement, Todoroki decided. Yorosu sent him a look. You just want to see him shirtless, Todoroki-kun. It's a side benefit. Ida pinched the bridge of his nose. I can't let you throw your life away like that, Midoriya-kun. Izuku smiled, and it was far too sly for the blue net. Good thing I'm not. I'll just be providing an efficient distraction. Kirishima shuffled. While it's definitely a strange way to distract them, I believe in you, Midobro. The three of them stared at Ida and Yaoyorosu. Both of them floundered. Then the only female of the group sighed. I trust you, Midoriya-kun, even if this is insanely dangerous. Ida withheld a groan. Why? Why do I allow these dangerous escapades? He whispered underneath his breath. Fine. Do you even know how to hula, though, Midoriya-kun? It's an American-style dance. Polynesian, Izuku corrected immediately. Then he smirked. And as I said, you get bored with no friends. All Might stood across from One for All, a scowl on his usually smiling face. I won't make the same mistake I did 6 years ago, All for One. I will rescue Bakugo-kun and return him to his family. He growled, muscles tensing in preparation to lunge. Before he could, a movement to his left caught his attention, and he nearly spat blood in surprise. What? Not going to follow up with your... All for One trailed off in a rare moment of confusion, his sensory quirk detailing the image of a half-naked teenager, walking, sashaying across the battlefield. Slowly, the conscious villains and Bakugo turned towards the teen, various noises of shock escaping them. Izuku Midoriya strutted over in all his glory, a fern-green knee-length skirt swirling around his legs, with each step green, purple, and coal-black feathers arched up from the back of it in parallel to a peacock's plumage. What looked like a collar wrapped around his neck below his Adam's apple, splaying more emerald green and black feathers across his skin, of the skin of his chest, collarbone, and shoulders. Plum purple eyeshadow accented his half-lidded eyes, and Bakugo could see some clinging to his shoulders and elbows, and holy shit, why is his body shimmering? Bakugo could feel the fears of holy shit, I'm this close to dying draining away from him as it was replaced with holy shit, since when is Izuku hot? Panic. Izuku licked his already glistening lips, and even though Bakugo was lying on the ground, he felt like he had tripped and fallen into an alternate dimension, because what the fuck was going on? When Izuku started swaying and shaking his hips, Bakugo heard a punched noise leave one of the villains behind him. The feathers fluttered behind him with every swing of his hips, and he found himself captivated by the sight. He didn't even question where the fuck he came from. Maybe in a different universe, He would have joined Ida and Kirishima in vaulting off of Todoroki's miniature glacier. Instead, he found himself sensually dancing past Bakugo and towards the villains. He could feel their eyes on him, which meant the plan was working, and he dutifully ignored All Might's bewildered gaze because that was too much for today, thanks. But in this universe, Midoriya was freaking the fuck out. No, actually, he was far past that. He was in the moment I'm done, I'm passing out for 16 hours mindset. Whoever told him that this was a good idea, and shit, he had said that, was a fucking liar. However, this was future Izuku's problem. Present Izuku had shit to do, and that didn't include having a panic attack. He approached Spinner first. He was the closest and most easily manipulated after all, keeping his muscles relaxed to make him appear himself softer. He twirled his arms and spun in a low circle, his hips swaying all the while. The 1A student winked and watched as the lizard villain flushed a deep red. Then he patted closer, the sides of their hips bumping together as he scratched lightly underneath Spinner's chin. He giggled softly and nearly let out a snort when the other fell back on his ass, eyes unfocused. This was way too easy! Izuku brushed past him and moved on to Magne, whose face was probably too red to be healthy. His hands twirled as his arms raised, flaunting his small leaf figure. He knew she could see his perfect eyeliner and mascara from there. To her credit, she didn't stare, just exhaling sharply and looking away with a deeper flush. At this point, he could tell that he was doing a bit more than the Hula called for, but it's not like any of these shits would really be able to tell. After stepping around both an unconscious Kurogiri and Tabi, he preyed upon his next villain. He decided to leave twice to his back and forth, "Ah, my eyes!" and "Holy shit, is this what it's like to be gay?" Izuku stalked up to Compress with a sensual grace, watching as he gulped and pulled at the collar of his shirt. His mask was already off, displaying the flustered embarrassment on his face. He made sure to stay out of reach of the other's hands, sashaying behind him and letting his fingers ghost along his back. Compress shuddered and Izuku internally giggled when he accidentally marbled his mask. Holy fuck, this was fun! As the villain scrambled to catch his compressed mask, Izuku's feet carried him towards Toga, who looked like she was about to faint from perverse joy. He wasn't looking to get stabbed today, thank you, took her hands, hips swaying with fervor. She clutched his hand in return, giggling wildly as she bounced from foot to foot. "Oh, Izuku, you're even prettier than usual!" she breathed, eyes sparkling. He only responded by twirling and gently pulling his hands from hers, feeling as his feathers brushed against her arm. He sent her a playful kiss as he passed, which seemed to appease her enough not to stab him. Last but not least, Shigaraki, the one who haunted his nightmares the most. Izuku would enjoy this one. Gradually, his gait changed from slow and gentle to lithe and meaningful, the prowl of a predator growling closer to its prey. Dimly, his eyes shone in the light of dying embers, a silent heralding of the carnage to come. Unaware of the growing danger, the man-child in question stared at Izuku with wide, red eyes and cheeks of the same hue. "Tomo-chan," he murmured, low and smooth, and every ounce of shame he felt was worth the utter helplessness on Shigaraki's face. He padded over, ever so closer, invading the villain's space and pressing their chests together. One hand went to lightly wrap around Shigaraki's scarred neck, sensing his racing heartbeat. Izuku giggled again and removed father from Shigaraki's face with his other hand. Ah, Tomu-chan, remember the second time we met? He whispered, voice hushed in the imitation of a secret. Shigaraki stared down at him with an unreadable expression, breath hitching. Every ounce of Izuku's being was dedicated to keeping his features sultry, tone wistful, and body relaxed. You wrapped your hand around my neck like this and squeezed. Izuku's hand flexed lightly, and Shigaraki whimpered. Seems like the roles are reversed now, huh, Tomu-chan? I wonder how the rest of the world would react to knowing that the successor of All for One liked to be dominated in front of his own mentor. Shigaraki shuddered violently, hunching over as a quiet whine ripped itself from him. It took everything in Izuku not to laugh incredulously or gag in disgust because it was that fucking fast. Instead, he forced himself to lean closer, hands tightening. But I have to say thank you, he murmured, setting his glossy lips next to Shigaraki's ears. Because it means I got to do this. Shigaraki wasn't given the time to be confused as he felt Izuku's muscles flex against him before he was kneed between the legs with 12% of All for One. A shrill scream left him, and he collapsed to his side with a warbled cry of pain. Izuku stood here. Everyone was still and silent, completely stunned, and Izuku continued to stand there. He turned towards his flustered group of friends, mostly hidden behind the wall, and hissed, "That was your cue!" In the split second afterwards, Kirishima and Ida got their wits together and burst out from behind the wall. Scattering the clearing with rocks, a large smooth glacier followed after them and guided them into the sky. In the sudden chaos, Izuku took off with a cackle Bakugo would be proud of, green lightning sparking off of his figure as he leapt towards the two heroes in training and grabbed onto Ida. Kirishima, red-faced, glanced back at Bakugo and shouted, "Come on!" After a brief moment of surprise, Bakugo blasted after them and latched onto Kirishima's hand. All of the conscious villains, besides Toga and Shigaraki, awkwardly waddled in a failed effort to catch him. A wild Gran Torino appeared and kicked them in the faces. Anyways, so their attempts were for naught. As they flew through the air, all of the boys turned to Izuku, blush still present on their feature. "Deku, where the fuck did you learn to act like that?" Bakugo hissed, and Izuku could only laugh at his flustered expression. "Deku, that's not a fucking answer!" "Omake." Todoroki slipped his completely charred t-shirt off of his shoulder, using what was left to wipe away the blood from his nose. Yaoyorozu carried a covered basket of less than appropriate items. It was silent for a few more moments before Todoroki whispered, "I got more than I asked for." And Yaoyorozu snorted. All for One, All Might, what in the hell are you teaching your successor? He just fucking seduced my protege on live television. All Might, I did not teach him that.